So when we think of early humans, we tend to picture that lone hunter, brave, fierce, surviving against all odds. We love that image of rugged independence, of strength built in solitude. But unfortunately, evolution tells a very different story. If you want to know how physically unimpressive primate managed to become the dominant species on Earth, it wasn't because we were the strongest, or the fastest, or even the smartest. It was because we were the most connected. Early humans did not muscle our environment. We learned that we're connected. And when you look back at our evolutionary history, what you find is that solitary living is never really a choice for us. The ones who try to go out alone usually didn't make it past morning. But the ones who thrive, pass on their genes, are the ones who band together, to hunt together, to protect each other, to build a society together. This cooperation wasn't just a bonus feature. It was the core aspect of our survival. Now I want you to picture Earth 2 million years ago. Vast, open savannas, dark forests where predators lay in hiding, and cold, frigid mountain ranges, where survival meant more than just endurance. It meant cooperation. Alone, early humans were fragile. We had no claws to tear through, no armor to shield ourselves, and no natural camouflage. Compared to other apex predators, we were slow and clumsy. But what's beautiful is, when you put a few humans together to protect each other, to look out for each other, suddenly the story changed. We built fires to keep ourselves warm, we fashioned weapons to protect ourselves, and we learned to track animals with stunning precision. And our social structures evolved to support this as well. Many anthropologists believe that early human groups weren't massive, sprawling societies at first. They were small, tight-knit groups around 20 to 50 people. Big enough to share resources, but small enough that everyone maintained a personal relationship. And in those relationships, trust mattered, reputation mattered. Because being selfish might have helped you out once or twice, but in the long run, getting kicked out of the group was as good as a death sentence. Because cooperation wasn't about kindness, it was about survival. One fascinating theory even suggests that language, one of humanity's greatest innovations, evolved not primarily to share technical information like how to hunt or gather, but to gossip. Yes, gossip. Because knowing who could be trusted, who had lied, who had cheated, who had contributed was vital. Language allows us to build a network of relationships far beyond any other species. And without that web of relationships, without that trust that tied us together, we would have no humanity. And it wasn't just about practical survival either. Early humans needed each other emotionally as well. Think about the developmental needs of a human baby. They far exceed any other species. I mean, a newborn deer can run within minutes of being born, but a human baby takes years to become independent. It's that level of vulnerability forced cooperation. Parents needed help. Communities needed to pitch in. In ancient times, child rearing was a shared effort. And it wasn't just parenting either. Older members of the tribe, once too old to hunt or gather, still played a vital role as teachers and storytellers. In fact, many scientists believe the reason we evolved to live so far past reproductive age was to pass on that older knowledge. Now, as I'm sure you guys can tell, all this paints a very different picture than that rugged lone survivor that we like to mythologize. Because we're not a species built for solitude. We're a species built for belonging. And it wasn't just our behavior that helped support this. Our very brains did too. Modern science has revealed something amazing about the human mind. Mirror neurons. They are specialized cells that are believed to be the biological basis of empathy. Because when you see someone stub their toe, you wince. And when you see someone cry, you feel a tug in their gut, in your gut. We literally feel each other's emotions because our brains are wired to simulate them. And it's not just a neat feature either, it's a survival technique. Let's go back to that savannah we talked about earlier. You're in the savannah, you're with your hunting group, and suddenly one of them spots a predator. They freeze in fear. They don't say anything. But because of your ability to mirror that emotion, because of your ability to feel what they feel, you can react accordingly. And that can be the difference between life and death. Because at that time, emotions weren't private experiences, they were social tools. Tools that we still have today. Think about how infectious laughter can be. One person starts giggling in a meeting and suddenly everyone's laughing without knowing why. Think about how a yawn spreads like wildfire through a classroom, or how everyone stops talking for that one suspenseful scene in a movie. These everyday experiences are echoes of our ancient survival systems, ones that tell us that we are instinctively the smartest, strongest, and most human when working together. And there's more too. Research from Stanford suggests that our body produces a chemical called oxytocin, often nicknamed the cuddle chemical. Oxytocin is released when we share meaningful connection. So when you hold a loved one, when you share conversation, even when you contribute in a group project. It lowers stress, increases trust, and boosts generosity. And these individual interactions weren't random or chance, they were biological maintenance. Just as food fuels our body today, these connections fuel our survival systems. But despite being wired for connection, modern life often pulls us apart. Today we live in massive cities filled with thousands of people, and yet we feel more alone than ever. We have more ways to communicate than ever, and yet many of us struggle with isolation. The Harvard study of adult development, the longest running study of its kind, claimed that the single best predictor of long-term health and happiness wasn't wealth, wasn't fate, it wasn't even career success. It was the quality of a person's relationships. Because strong relationships protected the mind, the body, and even predicted how long someone would live. But on the other hand, loneliness had a terrifying effect. A study conducted by Julian Lunsford claimed that chronic loneliness was linked to depression, anxiety, and even early death. Her study equated that risk to smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And so what I'm trying to say to you now is that real connection, that messy, imperfect, vulnerable connection is so what we crave. It's still what we need. That connection takes time, it takes patience, and it takes energy. And in a society that idolizes efficiency and results so heavily, they can often feel expendable. And so more and more we substitute those connections for surface ones, likes for conversations, group chats for campfires and such. And then we wonder, surrounded by all these people, why do we feel alone? Well, here's how to fix it. It starts by recognizing that connection isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It starts by recognizing that vulnerability, the willingness to be seen and heard, isn't a weakness, it's a strength. And it starts by recognizing that we were never meant to do life alone. We evolved from the very beginning to belong to each other, to trust in each other, to build bonds that aren't based on transactions, but based on trust. And so the truth is, evolution didn't always favor the most generous. It favored the most kind. Because survival wasn't about domination, it was about dedication to each other. Because when one person discovered fire, it wasn't just their survival that changed, the entire groups did. And when one person discovered how to shape a tool, it wasn't hidden, it was shared and improved upon together. Because knowledge can only grow when it's communal, and compassion can only grow when it's nurtured communally. Because at the end of the day, we will never outgrow the need for each other. We are not the strongest, we are not the smartest, we are not the fastest, but we are the most connected. And that, more than anything, is why we're still here. Because when one person's fire flickered, another reached over to help light it. And so the next chapter of humanity won't be written by individuals fighting for themselves. It'll be written by communities fighting for each other. Because the greatest strength we have is each other. And the greatest technology we ever invented wasn't the plow or the printing press, it was the circle. The act of facing inward into a fire and sharing stories. And the beautiful thing is that that fire still burns today. That fire will only burn as long as we're brave enough to keep it lit. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I ask that you enjoy the next presentations as much as you enjoyed mine. Thank you.